Welcome to rePROs Fight Back, a podcast where we explore all things reproductive health, rights, and justice. I'm your host, Jenny Wetter, and I'll be helping you stay informed around issues like birth control, abortion, sex education, and LGBTQ issues, and much, much more. Giving you the tools you need to take action and fight back. Okay, let's dive in. Hi, rePROs. How's everybody doing? I'm your host, Jenny Wetter, and my pronouns are she, her. So yeah, we are still in the midst of just a whole wild season of anti-repro restrictions. States are just going hog wild and introducing all of these restrictions on abortion care, on other reproductive health care, on LGBTQ people, especially trans people, especially young trans people who are trying to access gender-affirming care. And, we've talked about this before, but gender-affirming care is life-saving health care. And to see states attacking young people's ability to access gender-affirming care is just devastating. Trans kids deserve to be loved and supported in their decisions and have their healthcare choices affirmed. It is just devastating that states are making these kids feel attacked and unsupported and unloved. And just trans kids, we see you, we love you, we want you to be supported and have access to all of the healthcare and everything you need. So we'll definitely be doing episodes that will talk more on all of the attacks that are happening around particularly trans healthcare. We'll also do some that dig specifically on what's happening in repro as well at the state level. But I just want to talk real quick about the scope of this, right? Like, it seems like there are a lot of attacks happening on repro, and you're not wrong, there are. According to the Guttmacher Institute, so far this year, as of March 15th, so 2.5 months into the year, there have been 519 abortion restrictions introduced in 41 states. That is wild, y'all. Like, 519 abortion restrictions. That is unbelievable. It really runs the gamut from they're all so harmful. And we'll get into it in a later episode into like what exactly we're seeing, but there are just so many. There are a lot of states introducing copycat laws like Texas's SB 8. Idaho became the first state to actually pass a Texas copycat law, which again, horrifying. So just keep up what y'all are doing. If you're donating to abortion funds, they can really use your support. We need to make sure that people are still able to access care. I mean, you just see states really ramping up their attacks on abortion in preparation for basically the Supreme Court overturning Roe in June. And so you're just seeing this huge slew of restrictions being introduced to try and attack abortion access in any way they can. So if you are able to support people accessing abortion, please do what you can. After the bill was passed in Idaho, I donated to the Northwest Abortion Access Fund. They're an abortion fund in the Pacific Northwest, and that covers Idaho. So I made sure to donate to them. If you're able to, I'm sure they could use your support. I'm sure Texas abortion funds can still use your support. Abortion funds everywhere can use your support. It is also fundathon time for many of the abortion funds. So now is definitely, it's always a good time to donate to abortion funds, but right now is when they generally raise most of their annual budget during fundathon. So if you're able to, definitely make sure to donate. So like state-based restrictions and stuff, that is like one bucket of like bad repro things that have been happening. But we also saw some stuff happening at the federal level. So every year, Congress has to pass an annual appropriations bill to fund the government for the year. So Congress recently just passed theirs and it was signed. And, we had some really great things in the funding bills that came out of the House and came out of the Senate. The bills would have repealed the Hyde Amendment. They would have made permanent global gag rule repeal permanent. They increased funding for Title X. They increased funding for international family planning. Unfortunately, when it came to conference committee to reconcile the two versions of the bill, it ran into Republican intransigence, and they refused to do any of the good abortion things that were in the bill or any of the good family planning funding that was in the bill. So that means the final bill that came out and went to the White House for signature and was signed does not include Hyde repeal. It doesn't include permanent global gag repeal, and it flat funds both Title X and international family planning and a bunch of other repro things that I won't get into. Everything was taken out. This is just, it is so enraging. Like, advocates fought so hard to get all of these things in, and all of them are so needed, especially the funding, especially global gag repeal, especially Hyde repeal. Like, these things have been really fought for and are just so many people are in desperately need of for them to happen. And to see them come out at the last second was just heartbreaking for so many advocates who had fought for these for so long, and for the people on the ground who could really use these services that were taken out. Obviously, the fight doesn't end. We'll keep fighting. We're pushing the president to make sure that, he increases all of these things in the president's budget when he releases it. And he includes, permanent gag repeal, Hyde repeal, Helms repeal, all of those things in his ask. Yeah, it's time to get ready to fight for next year's budget and to make sure we can get all of these things to happen. Oh, so y'all, like I said, there's been a lot happening. I think we'll stop there because otherwise I could keep going with all of the attacks. But I am so excited for this week's interview. I really want to just turn to that. And this week, I'm so excited to have Rabbi Danya Ruttenburg with me to talk about faith in Repro. And y'all, I'm just so excited for you to hear this conversation. I had such a wonderful time talking to the rabbi. She was wonderful, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hi, Rabbi. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So before we get started, do you want to take a quick second and introduce yourself and include your pronouns?
My name is Rabbi Danya Ruttenburg. My pronouns are she and hers. I'm the scholar in residence at the National Council of Jewish Women, which is a grassroots movement for women, children, and families fighting for justice, especially, but not only reproductive justice for everybody. And I've got a new book coming out called On Repentance and Repair, Making Amends in an Unapologetic World. You can get by pre-order already. It's coming out in September. And I've got a Substack called Life is a Sacred Text, where I do an everybody celebratory, justice-centered, slow journey through biblical texts, if that's your sort of thing.
I am so excited to have you here today. We've been trying to make sure that on the podcast, we're talking to faith voices to talk about that just the loudest voices that are often represented aren't the only voices. And I'm so excited to have you here to add to that slate.
I am delighted to be here to slate on.
So maybe we should start with how does your faith inform your work on issues around reproductive health? I know let's just start small. No, not a huge question.
Yeah, there's not much to say there, except for how it's totally fundamental. I mean, it is and it isn't. Listen, I was a feminist even before I was a religious. I was obviously born not obviously, but I was born a Jew, but before I was really religious, I was a feminist, and clinic defense was really my first entry into activism. So, I've been involved in repro, fighting for repro justice since I was in high school. But now, listen, Judaism teaches that abortion is permitted, and it is sometimes required when the life of the pregnant person is at stake. And for me as a Jew and as a rabbi, it's fundamental, right? That for us, we're commanded to take care of one another. We are commanded to honor everyone's dignity. We are commanded to recognize that everybody is created in the divine image, right? We are commanded to pursue a just society, and fighting for abortion justice, fighting for reproductive justice, which is making sure that everybody not only has access to abortion care, but can raise the children that they choose to have in a safe and healthy society, and that their bodily autonomy is cared for in every way. That's all part of our divine mandate, really. And in Judaism, the fetus is considered part of the pregnant person's body. Right? It's considered mere water for the first 40 days after conception. That's what the Talmud says. And then from then on, it's like a body part. And so the concept of reproductive autonomy is just, it's like deeply in the DNA of everything we are and teach, really.
I really love that your story started with clinic defense, because mine was almost exactly the opposite in that I went to Catholic school, and in I don't know, 5th or 6th grade, one of the girls was like, "Do you want to come to Madison with me and help save babies?" And yeah, obviously, this is exactly, I need to go save babies. And my mom sitting me down when I get home and being like, "Okay, have you thought about this?" And asked some really basic questions of have you thought about the pregnant person? Obviously, this was early 90s, so it was, not a person, but have you thought about this situation or that situation? And then gave me the autonomy to be like, okay, if you still want to go, you can go. And that was amazing on so many levels. One, she gave me the ability to make up my own mind. But yeah, so that's where my repro journey started.
Amazing.
I mean, obviously I didn't go.
Yes, right. I'm glad. Good. I'm glad, because if you'd been in the Chicago area, I'd have to be, kind of screaming at you and escorting patients past you to get them to the clinic.
Yeah, that would have been a little awkward.
Yeah, but it's been a really, it's been very gratifying to be able to, having gotten to rabbinical school already with my feminism fully intact, and my commitment to queer liberation and trans liberation, all of that was already there. And to be able to see in the sources, I wouldn't have gone to rabbinical school if there had been any question that my or anybody else's humanity was at stake. And okay, listen, there are threads. There's plenty of patriarchal garbage in Judaism. Let's not sugarcoat. And there are the threads that are challenging, and even around abortion, you can, there are two strong threads in Judaism. There's the Torah says very clearly, it says clearly in Hebrew, and we can talk about the translations if you want. There's a case in Exodus where a pregnant person, it says woman, so the gender of the person who was pregnant is a woman, as I'm sure is covered many times in this podcast. Obviously, not all people who can get pregnant are women, and not all women can get pregnant. But a woman is pregnant, she is knocked over because two men are fighting, and a miscarriage is caused. If it's just a miscarriage, you pay monetary damages. And if she dies, if there's a disaster, which is understood very clearly to be if she dies, then it's treated as manslaughter, which Judaism's great, fetus does not have the status of it's not murder, right? It's not manslaughter. Fetus does not have the same status as a person who is already on the outside. And a lot of our stuff around abortion flows out from there. We can talk about the translation stuff and the game of telephone.
Right.
Do you want to talk about the translation stuff?
Sure. Why not?
Okay. So in the Hebrew, it says disaster, right? If there's a disaster, then it's eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, bruise for bruise, bruise for bruise. By the way, the rabbis of the Talmud are like, eye for an eye? Oh, that means you pay monetary damages, right? Jews are not biblical literalists, I will note. But the translation of the Torah from Hebrew into Greek a few hundred years before the Common Era. For some reason, and there's a lot of academic speculation about what happened, whatever, translated harm, if there's harm or disaster or damage or whatever that word, ason, they translated it as in the form.
Okay.
Right, does not make any sense. But the Greek word is in the form. So now we get, he pushes her over. If it's not in the form, there is money, you pay money. If it is in the form, it's treated as manslaughter. Which suddenly you get Augustine being like, oh, so if the fetus is a certain amount gestation, you pay financial damages. And if it's further along gestation, then it's treated as manslaughter. And that's where Augustine gets the theory of ensoulment.
Oh.
And that's where the Catholic Church starts to sort of tick along in being opposed to abortion. And then the King James Version translates it pretty accurately as mischief, which 16th century English, mischief as harm kind of works.
Mm-hmm.
But evangelical Christians, many evangelical Christians consider the King James Version to be authoritative. And they open up the King James and they say, oh, if there's mischief, then it's eye for an eye. And it's like, well, what does that mean if there's mischief, right? If you're in 2022, like you can't totally get what's happened.
Right.
Like, she died, right? So it's not hard to understand the story if you're reading the King James Version. So anyway, so you have this thing, and then for us, then we have another case in another really authoritative text called the Mishnah, where it says really, really explicitly, somebody's in labor, they're about to die, it's a life or death scenario. If the head has not emerged, then you can literally go in and take the life of the fetus or the baby, as long as the head has not emerged. And it says explicitly in this text that dates to about 2,000 years ago, 2,000-year-old text, if the head hasn't emerged, her life takes precedent. Because she's more important because she's already out. She's on the outside. She matters, right? The pregnant person's life is more important. And if the head has emerged, then they're both considered people. And that's when we talk about baby and personhood and stuff like that. When does life begin? Right? Who decides? We'll
just keep really simple questions, right? When does life begin?
And Jewish texts trace back when life begins to Genesis, where it's like, well, God put the breath of life in Adam at that first breath. Okay. First breath.
Right.
Breath of the world. So then from there we go like, well, clearly when somebody's life is in danger, there's no question about abortion, right? You will not find a Jew who will dispute that. And then some people will say like, well, required if your life is in danger, permitted any other time. And then you will find Jews who say you shouldn't, only permitted if your life is in danger. You will find that argument. But the number of authoritative, ultra-Orthodox, like major legal voices that say things from like the 17th century. Emotional pain is as significant as physical pain. Mental suffering is as good a reason to abort as physical suffering, as material suffering. Like, there's a 17th century rabbi in Algeria who finds out that a bunch of women in his community are doing self-managed abortion with some sort of medication abortion, presumably herbal. And he like goes through the argument and he's like, yeah, okay. There's no, they have to check with their husband. There's no, but that's problematic for this reason. He just kind of checks through and he's like, well, this person says it's, Maimonides says it's not homicide. And well, what about this argument? Well, that doesn't apply. And yeah, no, okay, that's fine.
Again, it's so funny to think that. So I have another story that actually involves the same person.
Okay.
Connecting with me after I started working at Population Institute. And we were working on like starting our Facebook page and like getting it built. And I was trying to, attract people to it. And this was back when there was a woman, again, but the data is this time, a woman was dying every minute in childbirth somewhere in the world. And so I was like, help, work on this, whatever, come like our page, whatever. Right. And she came back and was like, a woman's greatest pleasure should be to die giving birth. And I was just like, I'm sorry, what now? Like, what? I don't, I was so thrown. Now, I don't feel like she's like beyond like the ultra conservative Catholic. So like not, I think one, that view, if you listen to the data from Catholics for Choice, that's not the view like most Catholics would have, period.
Right.
But it like blew me out of my chair when I read that comment, because I was just like, that is the wildest thing somebody has said to me.
Talk about being like carrying water for the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Like, dead women, great.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was so weird that was the same person. Anyway.
That's really feels very full circle in a way. And I'm really glad that you decided not to go hang out with her some more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the abortion. I think like one of the other ones, and I would assume if, good on abortion, like, again, coming from the Catholic background, like birth control is like another thing that we've seen a huge fight over, which apparently seems to not be dying anytime soon. So maybe let's talk about that next. Again, the loudest voices are like, it's a problem, it's abortion, but that's not everybody.
No. I mean, listen, Judaism is very pronatalist. That is a thing. Some of that is because God said, be fruitful and multiply. Though notably, it is that commandment, that mitzvah, is considered only incumbent on men. And I'm using the traditional language, again, I clarified earlier that the language I'm using is traditional and is complicated by how we understand gender's reality today. But only men are obligated to the mitzvah of making babies. Why? Because you can't obligate somebody to a commandment that might kill them. Right?
Yeah.
But there is a thing, there is like making babies is a good thing. And then you get to like, like small communities. And then they're like totally the like repopulating out after the Holocaust, sort of like there's that Jewish continuity. There's that whole stream. And, listen, birth control is described in the Talmud. They talk about various birth control methods. There's the moch, which was like basically a wool insert. It's kind of like a diaphragm. You basically just a vaginal insert of basically wool that I guess would absorb the semen. We don't know how effective it was or not, and there also was some sort of herbal sterilization potion. Kos Ikarim, the either the cup of roots or the cup of uprooting things. and like there's a story where, Rabbi whoever's wife goes and takes it, and he's mad, not that she did the forbidden thing, but that they like didn't have the conversation he wanted beforehand. Right? Like, there's nothing wrong with doing it. And now in Judaism, basically, like there's a whole hierarchy of which birth control methods are preferable and which ones are less preferable. Traditionally, there's a whole thing, and I can get into like why I think it's stupid, but like there's a whole thing about not spilling seed because of the one story of the guy who, one of Tamar's husbands, that should have, had sex with her, and instead he did some, premature trying to remember the name of the birth control method that this is connected to. I'm blanking. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, withdrawal.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you're looking for something specific.
Yeah, no, I just, there's like the little blank in my brain where it just vanished.
I know how that goes.
Yeah, he did the withdrawal method and then he got zapped. So the reason he got zapped is because he shirked a familial responsibility. And yet onanism is referred to as masturbation. Like the whole thing is just a weird tangle.
Yeah.
But so for a long time, like condoms were considered like the bottom of the barrel because like better, like less than birth control, because birth control, at least the semen goes into the person.
Okay.
But then, in the AIDS era, then suddenly with AIDS, people were like, well, saving lives is the most important thing. So then condoms like, like up, So anyway, birth control's okay. It is not the shocking problem that, it's not in the Catholic Church. Like we're pro-natalist, but not, there's precedent, we're people and we sometimes prevent pregnancy. People always have, and we have
right.
texts.
It's not something new.
Our rabbis did, yeah.
That one still blows my mind that it's still like it is 2022, and how is this still controversial? I mean, how is a lot of it controversial, but like that one still really blows my mind.
I mean, listen, the parts of the Jewish world where people are more uptight about birth control use and where you need to go to the rabbi in order to get permission to use birth control for a year, but after your marriage and are the more patriarchal communities in Judaism, right? Everywhere you go where abortion and birth control are issues are more patriarchal corners of the universe. And it's just,
I mean, I'm sure that's totally unrelated.
Yeah.
Okay, I think like the next big bucket of things where we see like really loud faith voices, and it's a large bucket because it includes a whole range of issues, is LGBTQ plus issues. And I know it's like hard to be like, this one thing, because it is a lot of things.
It is so many things.
Yeah.
And, we were chatting before we started recording, and I said, well, LGB is at least Jewishly really different than, LGBTQ is different for us than I think T and I, like, trans and intersex stuff are connected. Should we just do like the textual breakdown? Should we bring it? Okay. Leviticus, man shall not lie with man as with a woman. Actually, let's start a little earlier. The Sodom story, Genesis 19. People talk about that as like, oh, those people are going to try to have sex with, these men and guests. But if you look at Judges 19, it's the exact parallel story, exact same language, except they're trying to have sex with a woman, and it's clearly a bad thing. The sin there is hospitality, or worse. I'm just going to throw that. Like anybody who wants to open a book and play parallel story, look at Genesis 19 and Judges 19 together, and like trigger warning, because Judges 19 is one of the worst stories in the Bible, and there are a lot of really bad stories in the Bible. There's your story. Anyway, Leviticus, man shall not lie with man as with a woman. It is an abomination, toevahi. Other things that are toeva include eating pork. Just want to note. So if avoiding abominations is a big deal for whoever's yelling about this, there's your first thread. Things that scholars think this might be about. Number one, idolatry. It may be that in the temple cults, in Canaanite temple cults, one person dressed up as the goddess and one person got to have union with the goddess. And if you look in context of how the verses are ordered and what's around, that it might be referring to that. It may be referring to specific kinds of incest, because if you look at the context of the verses, it's all basically forbidding incest. And some people who have done some, they're, biblical scholars who can do like, parsing out the order of the words and the specific, they use this word and not that word. And so that tells us it was from a later strata of the editing of the Bible, and posit that it's actually forbidding sex with male relations, and that is what is being forbidden. People posit that it was forbidding rape because, in the ancient world, it was probably about rape and domination. There are a lot of different ideas. What seems to be unanimously understood about from various scholars is very unlikely to be about a consensual, loving relationship between two men who adore each other and want to have some sort of, ongoing, or even just for, one lovely night kind of a connection. And certainly homosexuality as we understand it today is a much later construction than whatever was going on in the ancient world. So is homosexuality forbidden in the Bible? No, I don't believe it was. Bottom line. I have a whole thread on Twitter about this. If you search my Twitter handle and same sex, you will find it. And I link to a bunch of different articles with a bunch of these different theories. But, if anything, the bottom line is like, there's nothing that's clear cut here. And if you are like me, someone who believes that the Bible is a sacred text that was written by human beings and that we are ongoing receivers of Torah and, ongoing participants in its co-creation, and that everyone is created in the divine image and human dignity is, one of the core principles of that, then the ambiguity of this verse and B, our centering of love and dignity means that we're going to center love and dignity. Hooray. We'll note that lesbianism is completely absent from like Jewish text, totally, completely, entirely, probably because like if there wasn't a penis involved, it wasn't really sex because patriarchy.
Right.
And, and like eventually later on and like, it gets like a couple of places where they're like, oh, girls, don't do that. But it's not taken seriously because women's desire is not taken seriously. No, that's not true. There are places actually where women's desire is centered in really interesting ways. I could talk about that, but not women's queer desire. So, as somewhat annoying as that might be, it also is like, great, door is open, walk on in, ladies, whatever.
I guess thanks for ignoring us this one time.
Exactly. So that's queer, basically. Should I just start in on gender stuff?
Sure.
I can just keep going.
No, let's get to it, especially because right now it seems super important.
It has always been, as far as I can tell, but definitely now. Dear God, please don't legislate hate of trans people. I know that, it's I saw somewhere that 280 bills, that are hateful to trans people have been introduced this year already.
It is. We're recording this in early March. Like that is one, it's wild if it was like all year, but like it boggles my mind.
I'm going to compartmentalize a little bit so I don't start sobbing. But yes. So in Judaism, somebody's going to bring this up. The verse about the verse prohibiting cross-dressing in the Torah is interpreted by our tradition to be that a woman should not dress in men's clothing so that she can go then hang out with men and solicit them for sex. It's about not deceiving. And it's about not using gendered presentation as an opportunity to do stuff that is not considered not appropriate to do. Now, we can have the sex work is work conversation. Is
Right.
it like a different thing? But what is being prohibited in the Torah is not cross-dressing, first of all. And second of all, like if someone is a trans woman, then she is wearing her clothes. And if somebody is a genderqueer person or non-binary person, then they are wearing whatever the fuck they're wearing. They're whatever the heck they're wearing.
It's
We're
fine.
all adults here. We're all adults here. And that is their clothing. So that verse wouldn't apply to them anyway. It's not about trans stuff. But even people who are doing drag, if the intent is not to deceive, it's, it's fine. And there's also the Rama, important legal guy, says that cross-dressing is fine on Purim because it's done in the spirit of joy. So also you can gender bend if it's done with joy. So you should.
I mean, I kind of love that.
Yeah.
Done with joy. Like,
yeah. And, gender is a playground. So you should play. Right. And that is a great, like people who are men, who identify as men, for whom that's the correct label, and want to wear a skirt. Like, you're a man in a skirt, that's your skirt. And second of all, be joyful. It's awesome. And then in terms of gender stuff, the Mishnah, which is what we call the oral Torah, it is, besides the Torah itself, is the most authoritative text. It's the base text of the Talmud. Try to find the English word that will make, like, I say redacted and people here edit it out. Codified, solidified around 150, 200 CE after the Common Era. Says that it talks about 6 or 7 different sex gender categories. So there is cisgender male, cisgender female. There's androgynous, which obviously androgynous and androgynous is the androgyn. I'm like, the word is just not coming out because I'm like in the Hebrew. Androgynous, right? But androgynous is somebody who has quote unquote both sex characteristics. Tumtum is someone who has quote unquote neither sex characteristics and or they are indeterminate or hidden. And that is the information we are given.
mm-hmm.
Ilanit is someone who was, I think, assigned male at birth and then at puberty develops female sex characteristics. Chama is somebody who is assigned female at birth and then at puberty develops male sex characteristics. And then there's Saddam, which is somebody who is assigned male at birth and develops female sex characteristics through human intervention. That is to say, presumably removing of testicles.
Oh, okay.
And, maybe other stuff too, but that is my guess. That's, but it's like we only have so much information.
Mm-hmm.
Presumably they're talking about various intersex folks. And people have done the thing of trying to, make guesses about what's going on. The thing that is important and notable is that, like, Judaism is a very gendered religion traditionally, right? These are the, mitzvot that men do, and these are the mitzvot that women do. And egalitarian Judaism has gone through, and we've bashed it all. We've destroyed all of that, thankfully. Jews do things, but traditionally, like, men are obligated to this, women are obligated to this, and and the rabbis are then confronted with people who don't fit cleanly in their categories and are like, oh, geez, what do we do now? And the answer is not kick them out or legislate them away, right? Or send them outside the camp, so to speak. There's a set of texts that go, well, okay, so the androgynous is obligated to these quote unquote male mitzvot and obligated to these and exempt from these and obligated to these quote unquote female mitzvot and exempt. and who can they marry and da 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 da. And they try to figure out how this person who does not fit binary gender fits into their binary system. Because the question is, how does this person fit into our community? How is this person going to serve God? How is this person going to be married? Because, of course, they are going to not just be part of our community, but they're going to have love and caring and connection, right? And because obviously they are. I think that's really, really important, and it can be a really important model for us as a society. Like, I think in some ways we're asking the wrong questions, right? Or at least some parts of our society are, right? Like for some of us, it's like, well, human beings are human beings, and
Yeah.
right? Like, what if two human
We
beings
should love and support each other. Full stop.
And right. And that's just it. And that's it. And our community can love and care for them, and they can love and care for us. And that's it. But, second century Judaism got the memo. And, there are places where we were hit and miss around things, but like, I'm proud of us for that. I want to shout out transtorah.org, might be.com, Rabbi Elliot Kukla and Rabbi Reuben Zellman have done a lot of really amazing work around this. And Rabbi Zellman has a beautiful essay on this where he compares androgynous and tumtum to Twilight. The rabbis also having to figure out how to, it's a time that is neither day nor night. And, how do we talk about that and the beauty of it? And
I like that.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
So, yes. So there's always as trans people say, we've always been here, and, intersex people, certainly same percent of the population as people with green eyes or people with red hair, as far as I understand, always been part of our history. And trans stuff, we see texts, we see things, glimmers here and there. Somebody named Noam Sienna, he's a professor, academic, is amazing, pulled together this amazing book called A Rainbow Thread of queer and trans sources throughout history. That's like, I don't even know where he found these things, just from all over the world, 2,000 years of stuff. There have always been trans Jews, but, in terms of more recently, like from the early mid 90s, there's an Israeli singer named Donna International who won the Eurovision Song Contest. She's trans. And so, of course, all these, ultra-Orthodox rabbis are like, oh no, does she count in a quorum? Like, oh no, like, what's her status? Like, do we have to? And so, like we've got literature. And anyway, there's stuff permitting gender transition already on the books. And can I share my favorite gender transition?
Always.
Thing? Always. Okay. It takes a second. So in the Book of Kings, we've got the prophet Elijah, who gets sucked up into heaven like in a whirlwind. And then in the Middle Ages, a bunch of rabbis are like, okay, well, what's the status of his wife? Because she wasn't a widow, because he didn't die. He got sucked up into heaven in a whirlwind, right? And she also didn't get a divorce. Like, he didn't give her the paper that's part of the divorce process. So, like, could she remarry? And they conclude that the marriage was annulled because she was no longer married to a man, but rather to an angel. And angels are canonically non-binary. And a change in gender status results in a change in legal status.
Wow.
And this guy, the Tzitz Eliezer, Rabbi Waldenberg, who's like this major ultra-Orthodox medical ethicist, used that story as the basis for his permitting Donna International, like for saying that like Donna International's transition is kosher. He's like, oh yeah, well, you know, if Elijah can turn into an angel, then Donna International can certainly turn, you know, like she's a woman. That makes sense.
I mean, yeah.
So, yeah.
It's the getting there. I'm okay with if that's the story, that gets you there, right?
Yeah. And now, you know, whatever, we got there. But, you know, and more to the point, like trans Jews are now running the show. There is something my friend Rabbi Becky Silverstein has the Trans Halacha Project, where it is now, you know, trans Jews, Becky's trans, and Lainey Solomon and Becky are doing this. And they're both trans, and it's sort of trans run, trans led, creating new solutions to Jewish legal problems that have not existed, you know, or that questions that haven't, or the problems have always been there, but we need trans voices addressing them. So there, you know, like there's a whole new movement of stuff happening. Needless to say, and the art and the podcasts and the Torah study and that, like, you know, there's a whole wave of amazing things happening now. So
that's so exciting.
Yeah.
And I want to be super respectful of your time. So we're getting on. So maybe we'll wrap it up with, you know, I know you do a lot of talking about these issues. How would you advise other people of faith who want to speak on this range of issues?
Wherever you are religiously, there are people who are already doing the work, right? None of this is new. And there are people in academia, there are people who are feminist and queer and trans and who are already speaking out. So go find the folks who are doing the work and follow them on Twitter, read their books, you know, listen to their podcasts, do some learning, amplify their voices, and don't be afraid to say, we're all created in the image of God, and I'm pretty sure that God doesn't want us oppressing and hurting each other, right? Like, do not be afraid to speak from this sort of basic prophetic place, because it's your faith and your tradition too.
Well, Rabbi, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you for having me and letting me go on and on and on about arcane Jewish texts.
Okay, y'all, I hope you enjoyed my conversation with the rabbi. Like I said, I had a wonderful time talking to her. It's always great to talk to people of faith about repro. I feel like so often we are only hearing from one side in the faith argument. They're very loud. They are not the majority, but they are the loudest group. And it's so important that we are hearing from all of the other faith voices who are speaking out in support of repro, because there are a lot of them. And so I'm just very grateful that the rabbi took the time to talk to us. So with that, I think we'll just turn it to, if you all have any topics you would like to cover or any questions or comments for me, you can always reach out to me. My email is Jenny, and that's Jenny with an IE, at reprosfightback.com, or you can reach out to us on social media. We're at Repros Fight Back on Facebook and Twitter, and Repros FB on Instagram. Otherwise, I will see y'all in 2 weeks. For more information, including show notes from this episode and previous episodes, please visit us at our website at reprosfightback.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at Repros Fight Back and on Instagram at reprosfb. If you like our show, please help others find it by sharing it with your friends, and please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening.